West Michigan. Good afternoon, I should say. For those of you who don't know me, I am Jonah. I am the co-founder of West Michigan Weather. We are going to dive into a couple of things that are becoming increasingly concerning for the severe weather threat this evening. So I'm just going to give a couple more minutes for our folks from Twitter to see our post that we just made and come on over because of the new Twitter policies. But I'll get right into discussing our severe weather threat in just a second here. So. Alright, so I just want to take a look at Twitter. Just see what's happening there. Sorry, let me turn my phone off here, guys. Okay, so diving right into severe weather threat this evening. I know the screen there says Doppler radar. That's not something I'm normally able to do. I'm normally at work at this time ahead of severe weather events, so I'm just going with what I have here. So I'm going to throw this on satellite here, and we're going to turn our current weather alerts off, and we're going to take a look at our overall convective risk across the area this evening. So this is our current risk. We'll go ahead and zoom in. We do have a marginal risk in place here, generally from about Ludington and then all the way southeast, just to the south of Flint and north of, or south of Saginaw, north of Flint, and then beyond that to about the I-96 corridor and west of US 127, or I'm sorry, yes, south of the I-96 corridor and west of US 127, we have an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5 for severe weather. In between those two regions, we have a broad slight risk in place. And then further off to our southwest, we do now have a moderate risk in place that's been issued with this latest update from the Storm Prediction Center at 20Z just about an hour ago now. So we do now have that moderate risk in place. This does not extend into any part of Lower Michigan. As of now, I would not totally rule out. We have one more outlook cycle before this event is expected to get underway, and we'll talk about that here in a minute in terms of timing. I would not rule out seeing this moderate risk shifted into portions of Berrien, Van Buren, Cass, and perhaps St. Joseph and Kalamazoo County, and then maybe far southern Allegan County, should a corridor of greater severe damaging wind gust potential be realized. I don't think that that's immediately likely, but it is certainly not out of the question. But regardless of what your color is, what level of risk you're at, the bottom line is that there is severe weather potential tonight with at least some risk for significant severe weather in terms of damaging wind potential. So let's go ahead and dive into each individual hazard. This is our day one tornado outlook issued at 4 p.m. Central or 4 p.m. Eastern time. And so the biggest thing we can see here is this newest outlook does add a 10% area into far southwestern Lower Michigan. So Berrien County, Cass County, St. Joseph County, and then southwestern portions of Van Buren County and far southwestern portions of Kalamazoo County. You guys are now in a 10% overall risk for tornadoes this evening. And then of course we have a broad 5% risk extending to the north of that to encompass the rest of Kalamazoo County, including the city of Kalamazoo, Holland, Allendale, into the far southwestern portion of Kent County, the southern portion of Kent County. This does include the southern half of the Grand Rapids metro area. So the southern half of Grand Rapids metro, you guys are under a 5% risk for tornadoes. I don't necessarily foresee tornadoes being immediately likely, but there is certainly the potential with these types of mesoscale convective systems that we're expecting tonight, given the low-level wind profiles that are in place. They are curved. They're very much curved, and they're indicating to us that there could very easily be a tornado potential, an isolated tornado potential with any what we call bookend vortexes or line-embedded vortices. And so the main line, the main wind bag, as we call it in the weather community, will come through. It'll push through from the southeast or maybe even from the due west and push more east-southeast. But bottom line, it's going to move through, and we'll see a primary damaging wind threat, which we'll talk about in a minute. But anywhere where we can have those low-level wind profiles realized, you can get what we call line-embedded vortices, bookend vortexes, areas of rotation, areas of surface-based rotation that can drop brief weak tornadoes. They're typically on the lower end of the scale. Not that low-end tornadoes can definitely not do damage, but we can certainly see those things. So bottom line, okay, 10% risk for a tornado across the southwestern portion of our coverage area. 5% risk extends from about Grand Haven to south of Lansing. Let's see if I can get Eaton Rapids. We'll go with that, Eaton Rapids, and then down towards Adrian along the US 223 corridor there. And then there's a very broad 2% risk that surrounds that from about Rothbury and then all the way over to the Ithaca and St. John's area, over to Owasso, and then all the way over towards the metro Detroit area before it dips down to the south towards Toledo, Ohio. So that is our tornado risk for this evening. The big thing with this, and I'll talk about this again towards the end of the update here, but the big thing we worry about with these types of setups is that they're coming in overnight, so people are sleeping. They're not necessarily aware of the weather, right? We're doing our best to make sure people are aware of this risk. We've been sending social media posts and posting online and all sorts of things for about the last week now about the potential for a more robust severe weather threat this evening, and that is now being realized as we get closer to the event actually occurring. So that's the bottom line. 10% tornado risk across the far southwestern portion of our coverage area. We need you guys to be weather aware tonight. We need you to have multiple ways to receive warnings. Ensure those wireless emergency alerts on your phone are enabled. Have a weather radio in your home. I've got one right behind me here. There's one upstairs in our house as well. You guys need to have a weather radio in your home. If you don't have a weather radio, you need to find multiple ways to receive those life-saving weather alerts, and that does not include outdoor warning sirens. Those tornado sirens do not count towards your reliable ways to receive warnings, okay? Do not rely on tornado sirens to alert you to hazardous weather. They can be drowned out very easily by the exterior and interior walls of your home. Rain, wind, even the roar of a tornado can very easily drown out those tornado sirens, and you will not be able to hear them, especially if you are sleeping. So have another way to get those warnings. Again, WIA on your phone, those wireless emergency alerts, is probably one of the best ways. There's lots of weather apps out there. Download some weather apps. Your local station, FEMA has a great app. The Red Cross has a great app. There's an app called Severe Weather Alerts, at least for Android users. Storm Shield. There's all kinds of apps that you can use to receive those weather alerts. So make sure you have those. Aside from the tornado risk, we're going to move into our primary risk this evening, which is our damaging wind threat. Okay, this is our damaging wind outlook. This is our damaging wind outlook for the evening. So we have a 5% risk here up along the US 10 corridor. It includes places like Traverse City, Mount Pleasant, Saginaw. And then there's a 15% to 29% corridor through here. It includes places like Muskegon, the northern half of Grand Rapids, Lansing, Detroit, Flint, and then down towards the Toledo, Ohio area. Our big concern tonight is going to be this area shaded in red with the black hatch marks over it. Okay, this is our 30% significant severe area. What this means is there's a 30% anywhere from a 30% to a 44% chance of seeing a damaging wind gust of over 60 miles per hour within 25 miles of a given point, anywhere within this red shaded region. Additionally, because we have these black hatch marks here, that is indicating the potential for significant severe weather. And what that means is there's a 10% chance of any of those other wind gusts that we mentioned. There's a chance for those wind gusts, 10%, for those wind gusts to exceed 75 miles per hour. And so obviously those can cause big problems. We saw that in Muskegon County on June 25th, just a couple of weeks ago, when we had 80 mile per hour winds come through much of Muskegon County there. Okay, widespread power outages are a concern with any of those wind gusts that do exist. Thankfully, they're expected to be a little bit more isolated to widely scattered in nature with this system. They won't be as widespread, but we could definitely see a few instances of those 70 to 80 mile per hour damaging winds anywhere within this red shaded region. And again, I mentioned this earlier, while I don't think it's immediately likely, I am not ruling out that we see this 45% region moved slightly eastward, expanded slightly eastward into lower Michigan with the next SPC outlook cycle. Of course, if that happens, we will definitely provide updates. If we do, in fact, get upgraded to a moderate risk, we will definitely provide those updates for you. So that is our damaging wind threat. I'll go ahead and zoom out and show the whole picture again. So again, big focus is going to be on this red shaded region with the black hatch marks across southwestern lower Michigan, generally southwest of the I-96 corridor. Includes the southern Grand Rapids Metro, Kalamazoo, Allegan, Portage, okay, Benton Harbor, St. Joseph, all of those places. And then finally, we'll take a look at our large hail risk. This is thankfully a little bit of a lesser threat this evening. As you can see, there's just a little bit of an area of 5%, 5 to 14% hail risk here across generally the lakeshore counties north of I-96. So this includes places like Muskegon, Ludington, the US 10 corridor, US 31 corridor, as far north as Manistee, and then it extends up out of our coverage area up towards Traverse City and Frankfort, up into the Upper Peninsula there. So, and then there is also just a little sliver of far southwestern Berrien County in this 5% risk as well. So New Buffalo Township, Grand Beach, Michiana, all of you guys are in that 5 to 14% hail risk as well. So that's sort of what we're looking at for the evening in terms of severe threats. We do also have a excessive rainfall threat and associated flooding or flash flooding threat. We do have a moderate risk for excessive rainfall in effect for the Chicago metro area, and then a slight risk surrounds that generally along and south of M46 and to the east, or I'm sorry, to the west of Lansing, but that little part surrounding Lansing is included there. So the bottom line is, due to the remnants of Hurricane Beryl, due to the remnants of all the recent shower and thunderstorm activity that is not related to Hurricane Beryl that we saw last week, the ground, the soil content is saturated, and the rivers and creeks and streams and the waterways are very much at bankful or already at flood stage. We saw several instances of flooding across Kent County last night, across Ottawa County, and into Ionia County. So, and we're expecting additional heavy rainfall, probably in excess of 1 to 2 inches, again, especially across these areas. So any areas that are already experiencing flooding or that see training of thunderstorms or thunderstorms moving over the same area, that is going to be a hazard for you guys as well. So there's that slight risk. That is indicative of a 15 to 39% chance of flash flooding anywhere within this yellow shaded region here. And then this green shaded area is a marginal risk, and that is 5 to 14%. So those are our current hazards, sort of what we're looking at right now. So those are the hazards, as I was saying. Let's take a look at National Doppler radar here. Let me get these outlooks turned off. And we'll go ahead and turn weather alerts back on. Okay, so big severe thunderstorm watch off to our west and southwest here across parts of Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. This is what we're watching. We're also watching this convective activity up here. Questions remain as to how far west or how far east these cells here are going to travel before they dive south. So if they continue on their current track, they'll likely impact the areas of that enhanced risk area. Obviously, that remains to be seen. We'll go ahead and take a look at some of our weather models here, but this is what we're watching right now. And again, we're also watching this area for any potential intensification as well. But this is the severe thunderstorm watch in place across Illinois, Wisconsin, and into parts of Iowa as well. So, and Missouri as well. So, those are some of our probabilities. 80% risk for damaging winds and 70% chance for significant damaging winds. So that's the big hazard with that severe thunderstorm watch there. So, of course, we'll continue to provide updates as these cells continue to transition to the east-southeast. I would imagine that areas, at least the areas south of I-96, will see some form of a convective watch this evening. Whether that's severe thunderstorm or tornado based remains to be seen, but that is sort of what we're looking at right now. So aside from that, let's go ahead and take a look at some of our major models for this evening. This is our 18Z HRRR model, and this is just essentially, this is a computer weather model for those of you who don't know, and this is just simulating what this model in particular thinks radar may look like at a given time. So we'll zoom in on Michigan here, and as you can see, we're going to stay largely okay for the remainder of the evening, but as we approach the 9 p.m. hour and 10 p.m. hour, we can see these thunderstorms beginning to move out over the lake and heading this way. Okay, as we reach 11 o'clock, we're definitely going to see thunderstorms across that area south of I-96 there. We'll take a look at the environment ahead of these storms here. Okay, so a couple of things. We do have a decent amount of instability. It's not as high, but that's just because of the nighttime cooling effect. But overall, pretty decent cape. Definitely supportive of some severe weather. Then we have this number here, which is kind of countering that cape. Is kind of the opposite. This is known as convective inhibition, and this value is inhibiting, or is the representation of the atmosphere's ability to inhibit convective development. But something to note with that number, it's pretty high, but the thing to note about that is that when convection is already underway, when shower and thunderstorm activity is already underway, which is likely going to be the case with this type of a system, it can very easily negate that convective inhibition value quite substantially, in fact. So not necessarily super focused on that, but there is definitely a capping inversion there in the low levels there. So but again, that system that's going to be coming through will likely be able to negate that capping inversion. So this is downdraft cape, so this is the energy, the predicted energy that the downdrafts of a thunderstorm will have. When we see this number higher, closer to 1,000, anywhere over 500, really, we can see gusts, damaging wind gusts mixing down to the surface. So given that it's in the upper 700s here, we can definitely see the potential for some damaging wind gusts to mix down to the surface. We talked about those curved low-level hodographs, so we're focusing on this red line. this pinkish red line here, this is our wind profile in the lowest levels of the atmosphere. And these wind barbs here kind of give you a more visual representation. So as you go up the screen here, we're getting higher up in the atmosphere, and then these wind barbs are showing the direction and speed of that wind profile as you go up. So as you can see, we have winds like this at the surface, and then they start to curve as you go up, and then they become largely unidirectional, moving in the same direction as you get higher. But given the slight curvature, the modest curvature of these low-level photographs, we could definitely see the potential for that isolated, weak spin-up tornado occur, especially with these rather modest storm relative helicity or storm spin values. So I know this is super nerdy and super complicated. I'm trying to dumb it down a little bit, but just trying to explain sort of what we're looking at here. So that's sort of the end of the simulated reflectivity for that. Threat should largely be ending for most of our area by about 3 a.m. at the latest, I would say. Take a look at one other model here. So this is the 18Z NAM. Okay, so it's very similar. You guys can see the time changing here. A little bit of a different solution, but one supportive of severe weather nonetheless. Take a look at the environment here. Yeah, okay, very similar. Biggest difference here with the NAM, much higher CAPE values, okay? But obviously what will actually happen remains to be seen. We'll be relying very heavily on surface observations. We're kind of throwing these model runs out at this point, definitely keeping an eye on them, but we're kind of throwing them out and just focusing on surface observations and radar trends, which is why, again, we have radar pulled up over here, keeping a very close eye on what's coming from our west here. So that's really all I have. At this point, I will open it up for folks who have questions. There's not a ton of people watching. I know most people are just now getting out of work, so hopefully people come back and watch this before they head to bed tonight. Make sure that you share this with your friends and your family so that they're aware. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, so again, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. We're keeping an eye on this convection, this shower and thunderstorm activity off to our west. We've got a nice, large, severe thunderstorm watch off to our west. So if you guys have questions, please feel free to ask. I'll throw up the day one convective outlook again. This is our severe weather outlook. Most of our area is in an enhanced risk for severe weather. Level 3 out of 5. Okay, let's see what Owen says. Okay, not anything for the stream. Yes, Aaron, in terms of derecho chances, so we really don't like to throw around that word. So derechos are very similar to tornado ratings, right? We can sit here and guess all night long about what that tornado was rated, or is there going to be a derecho, or how fast are these wind speeds going to be as they come through. But the bottom line is that only the National Weather Service can rate tornadoes, and only the National Weather Service can officially declare that a storm system was a derecho. So the potential for a derecho is certainly there, right? With these types of mesoscale convective systems, these linear bowing segments of storms, the potential for derecho criteria being met is always there. But in terms of the probability of that happening with this particular event, I think is rather low. This is a pretty small corridor of moderate risk area. So obviously all that remains to be seen, and of course that's up to the National Weather Service at the end of the day. But I'm not seeing a ton of evidence that's supportive of derecho moving through the region. But regardless of what the system is called, whether it's called a mesoscale convective system or a line of thunderstorms or a derecho, they can certainly have impacts, right? We saw that again a couple of weeks ago in Muskegon County, right? It wasn't declared a derecho, but we had widespread 80+ mile per hour winds move through Muskegon County and cause some pretty significant damage through Muskegon County there into parts of Ottawa and Kent County as well. So certainly take this serious. In terms of the Montcalm County area, I see that Becca and Christina are asking about the Montcalm County area. So this is Montcalm County right here. You guys are in a level 2 out of 5 slight risk for severe weather. I will go ahead and quickly flash up the individual risk categories. So parts of Montcalm County are in that 2% tornado risk. The southern half, so Greenville, is in that 2% tornado risk. Don't think that's immediately likely up here. Thanks, Mark, for letting me know. I will go ahead and turn that up quickly. Hopefully that's a little bit better for you guys. We'll move my mic a little bit closer as well. Okay, so we do have this 2% risk, as I was saying, for tornadoes here. I don't think it's immediately likely north of Grand Rapids that we would see any form of tornado risk, but of course that is certainly a possibility being outlined by the Storm Prediction Center. Here is our wind outlook. We've got a 15% risk for damaging winds, 15 to 29% risk for damaging winds. And then the hail threat up here is negligible. Okay, Mark, thanks for letting me know. In terms of what models are sort of showing for Montcalm County, here's Montcalm County. And again, this is our NAM 3-kilometer model. So you guys generally look to avoid the worst of it. Definitely want to keep an eye on this stuff here. And again, we're kind of throwing all this stuff out the window at this point, but Montcalm County will probably see thunderstorms tonight, but I'm not overly confident in severe weather potential north of Grand Rapids. But of course, the risk is still there, as shown by the Storm Prediction Center. So definitely don't discount it. Continue to take this risk seriously. We always preach, don't be scared, be prepared, right? Have those weather radios in your house, have multiple ways to receive warnings. We'll be throwing out a social media post before we activate storm chase mode, if that's what we end up doing this evening. Consider sleeping in a more interior part of your home, away from windows, on the lowest floor if you can. So that way, even if you aren't woken up to severe weather, it's going to be a lot safer for you in that location, even if you aren't alerted to a severe thunderstorm. Sand Lake specifically, hey, West Michigan Weather Headquarters is right in this area here, so I am just a few miles from you right now doing this live stream. Sand Lake is also in that slight risk for severe weather, so here's Sand Lake. We're in that yellow slight risk level 2 out of 5 for severe weather, driven by that 15 to 29% chance of damaging winds. Muskegon is going to be very similar, okay? You guys, I know you guys had a rough go of it a couple of weeks ago with those thunderstorms that came through. So you guys will, again, anywhere north of Grand Rapids, I don't have a ton of confidence in that area seeing severe weather potential, but you guys will probably see thunderstorms of at least some kind tonight. And of course, you guys are in that slight risk. So certainly don't discount that just because you're not in this enhanced risk area. Anybody who's in these green or yellow regions, don't discount your severe weather threat tonight. These systems can definitely be unpredictable. Tawas or Oscoda, wow, east side of the state. I'm not super worried about the east side of the state tonight. Of course, you guys are in that slight risk, and further north, north of I-69, you guys are in that marginal risk. So Tawas, you guys are probably going to be okay. Okay. In terms of south of I-69, it's just a question of how soon the storms can arrive. There's going to be a lot of nighttime cooling going on. So we're going to be losing that favorable environment here on the east side of the state. But bottom line is that as these computer weather models are showing, let me throw that back up for you guys. As these computer weather models are showing, they definitely make it to the east side of the state. It's just a question of how strong to possibly severe they're going to be there on the east side of the state. So, will the lake likely eat this up and weaken the storms? Hard to say, Becca. It's certainly a possibility. The lake does really weird things. The lake does one of two things for us. The lake either weakens our storms or it strengthens our storms, and it varies from event to event. With the level of instability in place across the region today, I would have to say the lake is not going to weaken these storms, but the effects of nighttime cooling themselves may well weaken these storms. So we see these black shadows here. These are what we call updraft helicity tracks. So updraft is an indication that the storm is either maturing or it's sustaining itself, it's maintaining its strength, or it's intensifying even. So we see them here on this side of the lake. We see them a little bit out over the lake, so that tells me that at mid-lake they're still intensifying, at least based on this one run of this one model. And we see them disappear here, but I think that's largely due to that capping inversion. I think that's largely due to the amount of instability being reduced across the area. So it's really hard to say, but the lake may weaken them a little bit. But I definitely would not put stock in that for sure. So, yeah, NAM, very similar. Okay, NAM actually shows a little bit more updraft helicity. We've got the shadow here. It's really hard to see. We've got a shadow here, shadow, still have a shadow, okay, even a shadow there and there. Okay, so it's hard to say, but the storms may weaken a little bit over the lake and then re-intensify once they get on land. They may not weaken at all. They may intensify over the lake. So it's just kind of hard to say at this point. So these storms are moving pretty much east. So yeah, and they've already been warned for 70-mile-per-hour winds, golf ball size hail, and they have the tornado possible tag on them. Many of them are considerable. All of them are considerable tag. So, yeah, definitely going to be an interesting evening here. Again, we're looking at timing. Any time after 10 o'clock, really, is what I'm going to say. Okay, it's a little bit up in the air, probably closer to midnight, but really any time after 10 p.m. For timing tonight. So really right now we're just waiting for a discussion from the Storm Prediction Center that'll give us an idea of what to expect this evening in terms of watch potential, whether that's a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch. If I had to guess, given the 10% tornado risk here, any watch that is issued downstream of this, or that's to say east of this current severe thunderstorm watch into this 10% and even this 5% tornado risk here, will most likely be a tornado watch if I had to guess. The damaging winds is definitely the primary hazard here. So a severe thunderstorm watch would be warranted, but anytime we have tornado probabilities really over 5%, you're gonna get a tornado watch. So I'm kind of surprised they went with a severe thunderstorm watch in this region here, but I'm not the professional. We'll leave that to the experts at the Storm Prediction Center. These guys are really, really, really smart. They are very successful with what they do. So I'm not trying to hate on the National Weather Service or the SPC. We love them here. So is Montcalm County capped off and the nighttime cool? Yeah, so that's definitely a possibility. If we take a look at our environment right now, we'll say it's 6 p.m., okay? And we'll just do a big environmental sounding across all of southwest lower Michigan. Okay, we've got Cape, over 2,500 joules per kilogram, so a very unstable, bordering on extremely unstable atmosphere. Plenty of downdraft Cape, almost 1,000. The wind profiles aren't as curved, but they're still indicative of a damaging wind threat. But as we move forward, we'll go ahead a couple of hours. We'll go to 10 p.m. here across all of southwest lower Michigan. And we'll take a look at our environment here. It's generally curved, so our tornado threat has increased here. Cape is less, but it's only dropped by about 1,000 joules per kilogram. And again, with these systems, they can very easily compensate for the lack of Cape or the introduction of convective inhibition across the area, just because they're already underway and they don't need a ton of energy to develop. They only need just enough energy to keep going and sustain themselves. So we'll just have to continue to watch that potential. So other questions? What do we got, guys? Hi. Thanks. Appreciate it. All right, we're waiting for any other questions that the viewers might have. Yes, Becca, the tornado risk has increased as of 4 p.m. The tornado risk went from 5% across the southwestern portion of our area, and the SPC has introduced a 10% tornado risk across portions of Kalamazoo, St. Joseph, Branch, Van Buren, Berrien, and Cass County. So that has, yes, once again increased. I will try to show you guys this quickly. I just got to get it pulled up here. So yeah, so this is sort of what I'm talking about there. So we've gone from this 2% risk and this 5% risk all the way up to this 10% risk in yellow here in some areas. So the enhanced risk is now being driven by this 10% tornado risk, as well as the 45%, or I'm sorry, the 30% significant wind risk as well. So, and again, this just means that there's a 10% risk of a tornado anywhere within this yellow shaded 10% area here. So, but that was at the 4 p.m. update. So, and to be clear, I would not anticipate seeing this bumped up to a SIG-TOR risk, a significant tornado risk, nor would I expect this to go up to a 15% torrent risk. But again, we'll leave that decision to the Storm Prediction Center. Continue with considerable tags, severe thunderstorm warnings. So this is what we're going to be watching for the next several hours. So do I think this storm will shift more northeast? It's possible, Tanya. I don't necessarily think this will shift, but we are watching this area here as well as these rain showers for intensification as we head into the evening and as this convection moves into a more favorable environment. So it's possible, but I don't think it's immediately likely. Again, areas north of Grand Rapids, I don't have a ton of confidence in terms of them seeing severe weather potential, but that remains to be seen. So again, this is our overall severe weather threat. Most of our areas in a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk. Again, I don't think it's immediately likely, but I'm not ruling out that a moderate risk level 4 out of 5 gets extended into the far southwestern portion of lower Michigan. Berrien County, Cass County, Kalamazoo County, Van Buren County. You guys may see a moderate risk introduced if a corridor of greater severe damaging wind potential is realized. But again, I want to stress that I don't think that's immediately likely. So I'll just give it a couple more minutes in case anyone has any more questions. Otherwise, I'm probably going to go ahead and wrap it up and get prepped for storm chasing in case that becomes something that we do this evening. So make sure you guys are subscribed. If you guys want to get additional notifications when we do live updates, and of course when we're storm chasing live, you'll want to get notified for that as well. So guys, make sure you're subscribed and hit that little bell icon if you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, make sure you guys are following us. I'll just take a very quick look at the local National Weather Service fees just to see if there's anything that I need to look at. Really see anything? And really quickly, let's just make sure there's no mesoscale discussions for our area. Only thing that's there is this flash flooding mesoscale precipitation discussion from the Weather Prediction Center, but that doesn't impact us, so no concerns there. Yeah, of course, Christina. Make sure you guys share this with your friends and family, please. Make sure everyone's staying weather aware this evening. Alright, so I'm not seeing any more questions, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the stream here. We may be live later this evening. Timing is just kind of meh, and Owen and I both have work commitments tomorrow, so but it's kind of hard to pass up an event like this, so we'll see. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Again, make sure you're following us. Hey, Zach, hope you guys are ready to go in Ottawa County. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting tonight. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you're following us. And make sure you're staying weather aware this evening. Stay tuned to social media for additional